everyone, it's Daymeeuhn from Reddit. You may recognize me from some of the Reddit posts I've made in the past, such as the plea for the devs to change the imprinting mechanics, or lists of top issues the game currently faces. Probably one of my most well-known posts, though, was the one titled Mutations in You, a Guide on Breeding Mutations, that I made a few months ago. The response to that particular post was overwhelmingly positive. Many players thanked me for writing the guide, and to this day, I still receive messages in my inbox almost daily asking me to clarify some areas of the guide and also to help in explaining some of the best methods to go about breeding once you understand what the guide was trying to say. The post was so well received that I've decided to make one of the first content videos here on our new gaming network channel, Consolitude.tv, an updated, simple to understand video guide version of this written guide. In this video, I'm going to break down the very basics of breeding and mutations, and how you can go about creating some of the best dinos possible within ARK Survival Evolved. My goal with this video is to paint a full picture on breeding and mutations. We're going to take our time and cover all the grounds, and hopefully, no matter your skill level with ARK, be it a first-time beach noob or an endgame Alpha Tribe member, you'll come out of this video with some new tips and information. In prepping production for this video, I took the time to watch most to all of the other major video guides out there pertaining to this subject. Most of them are admittedly pretty good and cover a lot of the basics. Some of the stuff I cover in this video has certainly been covered there as well. That being said, I have some areas to cover that I have not found in any video to date, and there's a lot of finer details yet to be covered that definitely need to be there to have a full understanding of the system. I'm not trying to knock any of these other videos in any way, and I'm only mentioning this to you so that you understand I am very, very well aware of what's already out there. To put it frankly, I would not be making this video unless I was confident there was more that needed to be said on the subject. Right up front, I need to address two quick concerns before we begin. First, this information I'm about to present to you is accurate at the time of publishing this video. It is entirely possible that a lot of this can and will change, especially if Wildcard ever watches my video and decides they don't like some of the realities that exist within their game today that I'm about to bring up. Because, make no mistake, a lot of the areas involved with breeding are frankly not very well designed and buggy, which means it's entirely possible they could improve and fix the system down the road. If they ever do make changes, I will post links to updates in the video comments on this video, but the fact no changes have ever been made to breeding or mutations since their initial release means I'm not exactly holding my breath anytime soon. Second, a lot of people will try to claim some of this information is wrong. It happened to me on the Reddit post, and I'm confident it will happen again on this video. For the most part, my best advice is to ignore these people. Trust in this video. All of this information has been tried and proven time and time again by my tribe, and our results speak for themselves. We know the full ins and outs of this, and we breed a lot. Like, a lot. If it's a dinosaur in ARK, you can assume we breed it, and we do so on an official PvP server with the normal official rates and risks. We breed turtles, brontos, bears, and thylas. We breed troodons, perlovias, allosaurus, and gigas. Sometimes we breed doids and sabers, megalania and calicos. We breed tons of therazinos, uteranuses. We breed argies, quetzals, and skittle-colored terras out the wazoo. Daedons? Yeah, we've got those. We breed a goddamn army of sheep, tapajaras, rhinos. We have an entire breeding facility dedicated to Ankies. We do the water stuff too, and we breed squids. Hell, even electric eels. We get so bored, we even breed friggin' trikes. Blue dodos? Of course we have blue dodos. We even breed unicorns. And rexes. Oh god, do we breed rexes. I mean, obviously, they are the boss staple, so we of course breed a lot of them. In addition to some pretty decent stats, I've got blue rexes, red rexes, green rexes, orange rexes. Pretty much have it all in regards to colors. And before you scoff at the levels of some of these, keep in mind, we play on an isolated PvP cluster, and everything you see here was tamed and bred by us and us alone. We don't trade for outside breeds because we can't on a cluster. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. This is all us. So hopefully after seeing all of that, you have a better idea on what we're all about. Breeding is a specialty of ours, and we take it very seriously. Remember that before you decide to put your faith in random Joe Nobody in the Reddit or YouTube comments. So let's begin. Where do we start? If you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you know how to tame a dinosaur in ARK. I'm also going to assume you understand how to use stat calculators to determine good stat rolls from bad stat rolls. This stuff is the basics of taming, and understanding it before you start breeding is essential. So only continue on with this guide if you feel confident you're familiar with it all. The first thing a new player typically asks is, how is breeding beneficial to me? Well, the short answer is, it allows you to create dinosaurs at levels you'd otherwise never see. Say you have a male Rex with a high melee roll, and say you have a female Rex with a high health roll. Through breeding, you can create a baby Rex that inherits both this high melee roll from dad and a high health roll from mom, thus creating a new generation of Rex for your use that's more powerful than either parent on its own. A cool feature in breeding is that you can also mutate this new baby, increasing its stats even further and making it more powerful than its parents ever hoped to be. The very basics of breeding two parents is this. When the two parents mate, a baby is born that inherits stats off of each of the parents. Originally, it was stated that the percentage of the better of the two stats to appear on the baby was 70%, but after some data mining, it was revealed by another fellow Redditor that the number is actually 55%. So it's slightly better than 50-50, but you could pretty much just say it's a coin flip either way. If the two parents share an identical stat, that stat is a guarantee on the baby. Additionally, the stats that are passed on are the base stat before you put levels into the dinos, and before imprint bonuses. It also produces a baby that retroactively fixes the stats to 100% effectiveness, a commonly misunderstood area of the game. Taming effectiveness is an area that obviously pertains to taming the dino, but let's talk about it real quick because it does play a vital role in breeding. When it comes to taming effectiveness, basically whenever you tame a dino in ARK, you're going to notice the effectiveness bar while taming. This is a bar that goes down while you feed it and is a direct representation of how successful you were in taming. The closer to 100%, the higher the amount of bonus levels you receive on the tame itself. However, that's not all you get out of it. You also get a bonus percentage roll to attack and sometimes food on the tame as well. You can actually see these bonuses if you view the wiki page for the dino and look at the stat chart. It will show you the kind of bonus the dino will get on taming. Now, usually you won't tame a dino at 100% effectiveness, and the bonus effectiveness will be anywhere from 99% to 0%. But when a baby hatches, the game actually goes back and retroactively fixes the bonus to attack or food the parent received on taming to 100% for the new baby. It will not retroactively fix the amount of levels the dino received from effectiveness, but it will correct the attack and food stat bonuses. Which means, if a parent received a 10% bonus to attack instead of the full 15%, you may find the baby comes out with a slightly higher melee attack than the parent and no mutations are present. This is solely because of this correction on the melee effectiveness. Further breeds of that new baby will not see this new increase because this correction only ever happens once in the bloodline. But this is why you might see an initial jump in the melee attack when you start a new bloodline. This effectiveness boost is also a common source of confusion when using taming calculators, but I'm not going to jump into that right now because this is a guide on breeding and that's a topic for taming. Now, let's jump back into the stat transfer. As we mentioned, a stat has a 55% chance of being the higher of the two stats. In this image example here, if these two dinos produced a baby, the oxygen, food, weight, and attack would all be guaranteed stats. Since both parents have the same stats, the baby will inherit it 100% of the time. But the baby will have a 55% chance of receiving the 11,660 HP from the dino on the right, and a 55% chance of receiving the 2268 stam on the left. Essentially, what most tribes do as a first step of creating a bloodline is they go out and they try to acquire a dino that has a good roll in each of the stats they care about. Sometimes it's just attack and health, sometimes it's stamina and weight, and sometimes for pure vanity reasons they may even incorporate oxygen and food into it too. Sometimes, in the case of dinos like the Daymeeuhn, food is actually the most important stat. This is a case-by-case thing for each breed that you have to decide on yourself. There's also an invisible stat, which is yet another source of confusion, but I'll do my best to explain it. Basically, when you tame a dino, it will earn randomized points into each of its stats based on the taming effectiveness we talked about earlier, on top of all the other points that went into each of its stats. You see it when you knock it out and inspect it. This is why taming calculators exist. You'll notice though that the taming calculators include speed on most land and sea dinos, despite the fact all dinos tame out at the same identical speed for that species. This is because the game actually wastes points on speed in the level up process with no gain for us. It sucks, but it exists. So when using a taming calculator, it will show you how many points were wasted on the tame in this invisible speed stat. What's funny is you can actually still breed this stat into bloodlines and even mutate it. The game remembers this stat. It's real as far as breeding is concerned, so if you really wanted to get weird with it, you could breed the invisible speed stat, but that's entirely up to you. So anyhow, here's an example of a bloodline a tribe has started. They went out and they tamed a Rex for HP, one for melee, one for stam, one for oxygen, one for food, and one for weight. And now they want to breed these together to create a Mega Rex with all 6 stats combined. They would then begin the process of breeding the pairs over and over and over again until they hit the 55% chance enough times to slowly converge all of the Mega Stats together on one baby. A popular method for this is to purge a lot of the dud males that don't roll very well and to keep the females that show any signs of possible progress. Remember, one male can mate against as many females as it wants, meaning the more females you have, the more RNG chances of getting that perfect breed you can take. Once you have the perfect Rex, you've done it. You now have all 6 stats combined on one Mega Rex. So now what? This is where we start talking about mutations. Mutations are a random chance occurrence in the breeding process that allow you to add even more stats onto your dinosaur. It's a purely RNG based system, and it means a never-ending potential source of improvement. The basic mutation explanation is as follows. Whenever 2 parents mate, they have a low chance of instilling a mutation in the baby. When a mutation occurs, 3 things will happen. Thing 1 is the mutation score of the parent that mutated will increase by 1. Thing 2 is that one random stat will increase by 2 stat levels. And thing 3 is that one random color mutation will occur on the baby. All of these things happen with every single mutation, no matter what. They are one and the same and not separate in any way. Also, the dino being a fresh tame or a bred tame means nothing for determining the odds of a mutation. The only catch here is, a lot of things can occur that may result in you not actually seeing any of these effects take place. Let me explain. First, when a baby hatches, check its ancestry to see if any new mutations have occurred. You can find this ancestry tree by opening up the dino's character sheet and clicking on the ancestry link beneath its stats. Here, it's going to show you the full breakdown of all males and females that have bred in the past to inevitably create this new baby. It's also going to show the mutation score of both the male and the female involved with the mating. Mutation scores are a number that track the history of the mutations, or at least that's what they'd like you to believe. It's actually a very inaccurate and broken number that you should more or less avoid paying attention to otherwise. The reason for this is because mutation scores grow exponentially, and they do not check for new mutations when they do. While it's true that a dinosaur under the 20 of 20 cap can and will get a score increased by 1 if it further mutates, the problem is that otherwise this score rapidly grows out of control without any actual mutations present. For example, this screenshot shows a new baby dino. Its father has a score of 197 out of 20, which is clearly a weird number, and the mom an equally weird 73 out of 20. This new baby is going to inherit both of these scores, combining into a brand new score of 270 over 20. Meaning, when it breeds with another dinosaur someday, the new baby will show this baby as a parent with a score of 270 over 20. Since both of the parents of the dinosaur were over 20 of 20 cap, there is no way for this baby to have any chances of further mutations. Let me stress that one more time. No matter what other tribes or your friends or Reddit posters or anyone else tries to tell you, a dinosaur will not mutate itself after it reaches 20/20 or greater. Any increase to this score that you see over time is purely the exponential combination of the two scores that the game forces onto the baby. In this example, the 0/20 and the 5/20 of the two parents will combine into a mutation score of 5/20 on the new baby, meaning the 0/20 luckily did not impact the overall score in any way. This baby will continue on with an untainted mutation score. In this example, the 1/20 and the 2/20 from the two parents will mean this baby comes out with a 3/20 mutation score, regardless of any new mutations. This 1/20 and 22/20 will mean the baby is now 23/20. So on and so forth. This is always how it goes. Now, again, keep in mind, these numbers combine and pass on to the baby regardless of any new mutations present. This is why mutation scores quickly jump through the roof and can get into the hundreds of thousands high. It is nothing to be excited over and is usually a very bad thing, because it means no further mutations in your bloodline if both parents are over the 20/20 score. But as mentioned, when a baby hatches, if either parent was under 20/20 at the time of mating, check their mutation score against the new score shown on the baby's ancestry. To get the parent score, go to their ancestry tree and just do the same combination of its two parents as we just did. If one of the parents has an ancestry of 1/20 and 3/20, meaning its score is 4/20 and at the time of mating, and it shows a newly formed 5/20 on the baby, this means you know a new mutation is in the mix. Once you've established a new mutation, it's time to figure out which stat mutated. The obvious easy way to do this is to quickly go down the stat line and look for a stat that seems out of place from the usual bloodline stats you've come to expect. If you look at the stat line and can't find an improved stat, one of two things is possible. Either A, the invisible speed stat we talked about earlier actually mutated, or B, the stat mutation occurred on a stat that didn't carry over to the baby. Yes, unfortunately, as of right now, this is possible. The mutation seems to occur before the baby undergoes the 55% chance at the better of the stats down the line, which means it is entirely possible for the baby to inherit a stat that is not the stat that mutated in this particular field. It's crummy when it happens, and unfortunately you're going to see it happen a lot. So if your baby comes out and you see a new point in a parent's mutation score, and you're confident a mutation took place, but the level of the baby didn't actually go up, which normally would be indicative of the invisible speed stat not even being the stat affected, unfortunately, the stat mutation was lost to the void and is now gone. There's also one important area that you can take advantage of here that I want to touch on, because it's one of the most overlooked areas of breeding and mutations that I see today in other people's guides. A lot of the times, what is suggested as the de facto breeding method is this. Create your Mega Rex with all 6 perfect stats. Start breeding that Rex against a pile of 0/20 mutation females. The reason for this is to guarantee that your mutation score is never grown unintentionally, because if one side is always 0/20, then the only way the score actually goes up is with the introduction of new mutations. Then, every time you get a mutation, keep that mutation until you have one Rex with each of the 6 good stats as a mutated stat. Then, create separate bloodlines for each of these 6 Rexes, keeping only the Rexes that mutate that specific stat as you go, killing any that mutate anything else other than that specific stat. The end result would be 6 Rexes with a full 20/20 stat of each of the 6 stats. Then, switch all of these 20/20 statted Rexes together, creating the ultimate hybrid of perfectly mutated 20/20 of each stat Rexes into one Captain America God tier Rex. That strategy seems fine and all, and it would be correct if it weren't for one commonly overlooked and missed detail. And that detail is, one parent can mutate the other parent's stats. Yes, what I just said is real, and it's weird to think about, but in practice, it is possible. What I mean is this. Let's say you have a male Rex with 20/20 mutations. Let's say all 20 of these mutations were in melee, So it was a perfectly bred Rex, and every single mutation was a legitimate, and it was all in melee. 20 full melee mutations. Now, based on the common de facto guide I just mentioned, many people would consider this to be the end of the melee mutations for this particular Rex. Many would consider him to be finished. This is wrong. The truth is, a female Rex with any score of 0 out of 20 to 19 out of 20 can further mutate this Rex's stats even more. One parent can actually mutate the other parent's stats. This is 100% confirmed at the time of making this video. We have done it countless times in our breeding, and the data mining information even confirms it as well. It is real, this is not a joke. So what this means is, a male Rex, regardless of his mutation score, can breed into a pile of females so long as those females are below the 20 of 20 threshold, therefore ensuring their further mutations infinitely. There is no limit to the amount of mutations in a single bloodline you can earn from this. So while you could go and do the 6 separate bloodlines for each of the Rex stats and inevitably combine them at the end, you could also just do it our way, which is to take your stud Rex, match it against all of your females, check for any new mutations, keep those new mutations, and then do it again and again and again while combining all of your new mutations together on the side. We don't chase them individually, we chase them all at once using as few males as possible. Our go-to male stud just slowly changes over time based on the new mutations we get. But by maximizing and recombining all of the mutations every single time we get them, we create one uber male Rex with each new generation or two, rather than having to wait until the very end to create Captain Planet Rex. It's just easier this way. It means we have the one powerful Rex at all times to use whenever we want to. So in short, always keep your females under 20/20 mutations, and don't worry about your male Rex mutation scores. If it goes over 20 of 20, just keep going. Your females can do the dirty work for you. Obviously, you're cutting your chances in half this way of hitting the desired mutations and stats, but at least you're hunting for them all at once instead of using 6 different bloodlines for the same final result. One question I see come up a lot is regarding the possibility of combining 2 dino mutations on the same stat into one. What I mean by this is, if a male has 10 mutations in melee and a female has 10 mutations in melee, is it possible to combine these 2 different 10 melee mutations into one new hybrid with 20 melee mutations? The answer is no. The game doesn't actually remember how many mutations the dino has. Once the mutation score ticks up and the stat is adjusted, that's it. The mutation is not tracked in any way whatsoever. Now you might immediately be saying, wait, I thought the ancestry tree was how the game tracks mutations. And in that, we have to remind ourselves the mutation score tracking is not actually representative of the number of mutations the dino has. The score and the actual stats have no correlation whatsoever. The only actual functionality this ancestry mutation score has in the game whatsoever is purely to determine if the dino can mutate or if it cannot. That is it. Outside of that, the game does not remember mutations in any way whatsoever. The stat is the stat, and that is it. That's all the game ever sees. It doesn't see a 40-point melee roll with 10 additional points in mutations added on. It only ever sees a 50-point melee roll. If that mutates another 2 points, it now sees a 52 melee roll. If it mutates again, now it sees a 54 melee roll. So on and so forth. The mutation is immediately forgotten the second it happens, and all the game remembers is the stat itself. Let's move on to colors. As far as colors go, as mentioned, every new mutation comes with an associated color. For all intents and purposes, the color section process is completely separate from the stat selection process. The stats and the colors, while triggering at the same time when a mutation pops, are independent from one another. To understand color mutations, first step back and make sure you understand how color regions work. Every dino in ARK has a series of coded color regions. There are 6 possible color regions, and not every dino has a full 6. Some have less. The crappy part about the color mutation process is that the game itself uses a randomized RNG formula that churns out numbers from 0 to 5 for the chosen region on the dino, and the final result can choose a color region that dino doesn't actually have. Take a guess what happens when this occurs. You guessed it, no new color will appear on the dino. This is why sometimes when you receive a new mutation, you don't actually find a new color. If you're chasing colors, my best advice because of this is to find a dino that has a full 6 out of 6 color region on its model. Avoid dinos with only a few, like the Thylacoleo or the Mammoth. For an example, the Anki has a full 6 out of 6 color regions available to it. Here's a colorful Anki we've worked up as an example. As you can see, he has some very colorful regions. His color region 2 leg plates pop with a bright blue against the color region 5 pink underside, and his color region 0 and 4 head and back shell combo blend well with some of the additional blues to boot. But his region 1 spikes and region 3 spike tips are a little lacking. However, right next to him we have a similarly colored Anki with a purplish colored region 1 spikes and a reddish colored region 3 spike tips. These two Ankis combined could create a complete mutated color schemed Anki, with all 6 regions having new neon colors. But in order to do so, we'd have to combine them in the exact same way as the stats. You see, the color selection process is extremely similar to the stat selection process. Each parent has a coin flip chance to pass on the respective color in each of its regions to the baby. If the parents share an identical color, the baby is a stone cold lock to receive it. So in this example, the baby would be guaranteed the pink underside region 5 and the blue inner shell of region 0 back. However, all 4 other regions would be a coin flip toss-up. 50-50 on the region 1 spikes and region 3 spike tips, and 50-50 on the region 2 leg plates and region 4 head and back areas. We'd have to breed these Ankis against each other quite a few times to finally get all 6 regions neon colored in the way we'd want it. But as long as we kept babies with signs of progress towards this goal each time, we could get there. It just takes patience and generational breeding in the same way as stat combination. But again, if you want to maximize color mutations, be sure to breed dinos with a lot of color regions available to them, as this ensures the random RNG formula doesn't choose color regions not actually found on your dino. Also, you can get a better idea of the sorts of colors you can expect by visiting the ARK wiki and checking out their color IDs table. Most color mutations come from ID numbers 1 through 18, although some have reported getting various blues and purples from other areas on the chart. This about covers everything you need to know regarding mutations. Let's quickly recap. 2 parents have a 55% chance to pass on the higher of 2 stats to their babies. Parents pass on their mutation scores to the baby regardless of new mutations actually occurring, resulting in unwanted exponential growth to mutation scores. A parent with a mutation score of 20 of 20 or higher cannot add any new mutation scores to the bloodline, but any parent under 20 of 20 can. A parent can mutate a stat found on the other parent, and doesn't only mutate their own stat. A mutation increases a stat by 2 stat levels and rolls a new color in a randomized color region. Once a stat mutates and adds 2 points into its level, it is immediately forgotten by the system and is not tracked anywhere whatsoever. Sometimes a parent mutates a stat that isn't passed on to the baby, meaning the stat is lost. Sometimes a mutation mutates the invisible speed stat, meaning you gain levels but otherwise won't see any improved stats. Sometimes a color mutation mutates a color region your dino doesn't actually have, meaning your color is lost. Color mutations pass on to babies in a similar fashion to stat mutations, meaning a 50-50 chance for each color region found on the parents. Color mutations typically pull from color IDs numbered 1 through 18 on the color ID chart. This pretty much covers everything you need to know about breeding and mutations. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me here on this YouTube video in the comments section, or feel free to send me a message on Reddit. My username is Daymeeuhn. I hope you enjoyed this guide and learned some new information. If you have enjoyed this guide, be sure to keep up with Consolitude.tv by throwing us a follow, as I'm sure I will make more informational videos in the future for this game and many others. I have some ideas for future video topics on ARK, such as loot hunting, taming strategies, base building, and more, so check back often. We also stream full-time on our channel, found at the Twitch link in the info section of this video. I partner with the lovely Ash Monster to stream on the same channel, so sometimes it will be her and sometimes it will be me. We'll do our best to post a schedule so you'll know when I'll be on, and I'll happily answer any questions about ARK you may have whenever I can. Our plan is to start fresh on a new official PvP cluster as soon as more official PC servers are added, hopefully this weekend, so be able to follow us on a brand new journey as I live stream our entire adventure together as a tribe. Thanks for watching, and good luck chasing those mutations. Happy hunting, and I hope I see you sometime soon, be it in the comments or in our Twitch channel. Until then.